Welcome to this explainer. We spend a massive chunk of our lives obsessing over the exact right words to say, right? We agonize over dictionary definitions and grammar, but today we're going to flip that completely upside down. We are unpacking a dynamic that totally shifts how we interact with a simple page of text. We're looking at the powerful and frankly fascinating difference between how words look versus what they actually say. We're going to uncover the hidden visual language that is speaking volumes to you, well, before a single syllable is even mentally pronounced.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever judged a message completely, entirely, based just on how the letters looked? Think about your own daily routine for a second. You open an email, you glance at a menu, or you check a quick text message on your phone, and instantly, like before you've even fully processed the first sentence, you've already formed a solid opinion about the tone, the seriousness, and the intent behind it. We all do this constantly, and we do it completely subconsciously. We aren't just passive readers. We are highly, highly sensitive visual decoders.
Okay, let's just dive right into an example to show you what I mean. Imagine getting a message that says, "We need to talk about your performance." Now, on one side, picture that written out in a goofy, bubbly, childlike font. On the other side, picture that exact same sentence presented in a stark, sharp, professional serif font. The literal words are identical. The dictionary definitions haven't changed one bit, but your brain experiences a massive wave of cognitive dissonance reading that first one, doesn't it? It kind of feels like a prank. But the second one, yeah, that induces instant anxiety. This proves, right out of the gate, that the medium is absolutely the message. The font is literally speaking before the words do.
Which brings us to Section 1, Seen Beyond the Letters and the Illusion of the Invisible Word.
For centuries, we've kind of treated words as these empty little containers, right? Just vessels meant to efficiently deliver meaning from one brain to another. But honestly, that's an illusion. What we're actually experiencing is something called the resonating echo. Now, what is that? It's the invisible psychological weight and the emotional subtext that is conveyed purely by the visual shape and formatting of a text. It sounds like an abstract concept, but it represents a very tangible reality that hits us every day. When text is heavily bolded or tightly spaced or elegantly curved, your brain absorbs an emotional frequency, an echo, that completely colors your entire interpretation of the literal message.
To really ground this idea, consider this profound thought from our source material. We do not merely read words, we see them, and their shapes echo in our minds long before their definitions do. I mean, let that sink in for a second. Reading isn't just some dry linguistic exercise. It's a deeply visual, emotional encounter. The architecture of the letters literally builds the room in which the conversation takes place.
All right, moving right along to Section 2, the anatomy of an echo. Let's look at the history of visual communication.
To really understand how we became so hypersensitive to this visual architecture, we gotta look back. Because this didn't just happen overnight. It evolved over a millennia. Think about it. Starting way back in 3400 BC with the sharp, deliberate wedge impressions of cuneiform. Then fast forward to 500 AD with those breathtaking, ornate, illuminated manuscripts, where text was basically treated as divine art. Then, boom, the standardized uniformity of the printing press in 1440. Leading us all the way into the absolute explosion of modern digital typography in the 1990s. Across all of these eras, from literal clay impressions to digital pixels on our screens, the physical shape of the word has always carried deep intentional meaning.
So let's hit Section 3, the psychology of visual words, and uncover exactly why our brains react to these shapes.
See, when we look at text, our subconscious processing goes into overdrive. And the crucial point I want you to remember is this number right here, 50. It takes a mere 50 milliseconds. Literally, the blink of an eye, that is all the time it takes for our brains to process the visual emotion of a text. Long before your conscious, logical mind has decoded a single consonant or vowel, your brain has already decided if the text feels friendly, aggressive, chaotic, or authoritative. 50 milliseconds. That is how incredibly fast this visual echo hits you. And when we break down those first impressions, the results are pretty staggering. Check this out. 65% of our initial reaction to text is dictated entirely by its visual shape and typography. Only 35% is based on the literal content itself. That means our initial emotional resonance is heavily dominated by design. So think about it. If you're trying to communicate effectively and you're only focusing on that 35%, the literal words, you are basically losing the battle before the reader even starts your first sentence. Let's look at the proof. Section 4, Data Behind the Design. How visual presentation actually affects our memory and persuasion. Because look, this isn't just about making things look pretty, okay? It's not just aesthetics. It has profound,
real-world consequences. Notice the massive gap in retention rates we're seeing here. When researchers actually track reading retention, information presented with intentional, carefully chosen typography scores remarkably higher than information presented in just a default, unconsidered format. We quite literally remember things better when the visual shape of the text aligns with and supports the meaning of the words. Visual presentation directly dictates how well we absorb and keep that information.
And the engine powering that retention, it basically relies on three major pillars. First up, semiotics. That focuses on the meaning of symbols and creates our cultural context. Second is typography, which is the literal, physical design of the letters, directly impacting pure readability. And third, psychology, charting the brain's rapid emotional reaction, which builds subconscious trust. When these three disciplines combine intentionally, that is when they create that powerful psychological echo in our minds, essentially cementing the message right into our memory.
So let's bring it into the real world. Section 5, Shaping Your Visual Voice. The echo in our modern, screen-obsessed world.
Understanding this echo, it's not just for graphic designers anymore. It is an absolutely vital skill for anyone communicating today. We see this theory play out everywhere, every single day. I mean, it's the backbone of high-stakes advertising campaigns, where a single font choice can dictate millions of dollars in consumer trust. It's the secret nuance in your digital text messaging. Just think about how a message from your boss looks in a rigid system font versus a stylized social media post from a friend. And hey, it's even a matter of life or death in split-second road sign reading, where the visual clarity and weight of a word has to instantly convey danger or direction. Your font choice entirely changes the perceived tone of your reality.
So how do we actually build this into an actionable strategy? If you want to harness this power for yourself, just follow these 3 steps. Step 1. Identify your core message's emotion. What are you actually trying to make them feel? Step 2. Match the font's visual tone to that emotion. Like we said earlier, don't use a whimsical, bubbly font for a serious apology. And step 3. Structure the visual hierarchy. Guide their eyes so the echo lands exactly where you need it to.
As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this defining thought to summarize everything we've explored in this explainer. The shape of the word is the first voice the reader hears. Before your brilliant vocabulary kicks in, before your carefully crafted sentence structure is processed, your reader is already listening to the shape of your letters.
So, the next time you draft an important email, or build a presentation, or honestly, just send a quick text message, I want you to stop and ask yourself, what is your visual voice secretly saying before they even read your first word? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Catch you next time.